Going to have problems with the internet here tonight, just so everybody knows. We've got a storm. All the kids are home from school. This thing's probably going to be jumping around quite a bit. Let's see if I'm actually going to come up live here. I don't know if I will. Let's hope so. I'll get to this in a minute. Okay, I'll get to this in a minute. Let's see if this is going to come up here. I do want to do the live chat tonight. I think that would be a good idea. But we got to see if we're going to actually have everything up and running. So far, we're still behind schedule. We'll just keep hoping that it catches up pretty soon. Okay, I'll get back to that in a minute. Welcome, everybody. This is a Thursday night little review. Not really much to say, and I'm going to explain why in just a few minutes. But I thought that I should go ahead and come on and just give you all a chance to chat today. We're not going to have live call-in because I think that sometimes, we do that on a rare occasion, but mostly because it's very time-consuming. And I can look at the chat if it'll come up. If it doesn't, I'll have to look on the phone there. But the chat makes it a little bit easier for us to address a number of issues fairly quickly. So I'd much rather do that. But I'm still working on this to see if it's going to come up. So pardon me. There we go. Looks like it's finally catching up there. Let's see if it's doing it. Yes, it is. I don't know why it doesn't come up right away. It's very strange, actually. Okay, so what's the title of this particular video? What's this all about? The United States, also known as the Joker. You know about the Joker in Batman, right? Well, there have been quite a few of them, of course, in the comic books, and then there was the 1960s show, and then all the different movies that have been made since then. But the Joker that was played by Heath Ledger was probably the most significant, I think. And if you remember, there's a scene there where he's in the hospital. He's dressed up as a nurse, and the DA who has been injured from an explosion and then got burned from some gas that was burning on the floor, and basically the DA then becomes Two-Face. He has a good side and a bad side, the burn side and the good side. But the Joker comes in there, and he says to the DA, he says to him, "Plans? I don't make plans. I just do things." Do you remember that? Do you remember him doing that? Plans? I don't make plans. I just do things. It's like, a dog chasing a tire down the road. I just do things. That's our government now. No plans, not of any really beneficial type plans. They just do things to cause trouble and crap and discontent, wars, thievery, murder all over the world. They don't, I'm sure that there are plans, but my point is that it's absolute chaos. Yes, it's clown. That's exactly right. Who put that up? Wildflower? Absolutely. So, with the stuff that's been happening with the Nordstream pipeline, and now they're trying to say, oh, as Ukrainians that did it on a little rowboat and two guys go down, and yeah, right. There's some theories that the reason why the U.S. came up with that is because the German Chancellor Scholz came over and complained to, this is just a theory, I don't really know what happened, but I've heard this, came over to see Biden last week and said, look, if you don't do something here, you're going to have to blame this on Ukraine or something. If not, we're going to blame it on you, and we're going to withdraw from NATO. That's speculation. I don't really know if that's what's going on. But the point is that something happened. And so the evidence that the U.S., and Norway, and NATO, with Stoltenberg, who is from Norway, who's the NATO, in charge of NATO, obviously they're all in cahoots. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to figure this out. I don't give a damn what the CIA says or the 17 intelligence agencies that say that, you know, it's Russian interference in the election or whatever crap. With that now, that along with the Steele dossier and all that other stuff, the intelligence agencies have been caught with their pants down. Still nobody being held accountable. Clapper, I mean, treason, there's no statute of limitations on treason. Did you know that? There is none. Anyway, so we have this thing with Nord Stream, and they're trying to blame it on Ukraine now because they figure if they do that, I've heard, and again, I'm not certain of this, that the United States has been looking for a way out of the Ukraine situation, and maybe if they now say, well, yeah, the whole Ukraine government is corrupt, we're not going to help it anymore, and then NATO and the U.S. pulls out. It's very possible, but why did they wait till now to figure out that the Ukraine government is corrupt? We've known that for a decade. And certainly since 2014, when Newland and Obama and the CIA and Soros did the color revolution there, and then it took out the elected leader and then put in, you know, a stooge. And then, of course, using Ukraine to launder all that money. And by the way, the Russians know about that because when the Russian government, the Soviet government, finally collapsed at the end of the Reagan era there, the United States sent in supposedly to help the Russians rebuild. No, no, no. They went in there to steal from the Russian people. Okay, that's what these guys did. They went over there to launder money and to steal resources out of Russia, which Putin finally put a stop to. Okay, which is why they hate him so much. So Putin knows exactly what they're doing in Ukraine. They're laundering money. They're doing the bio thing. They're trading in parts of people, if you get my drift, all these kinds of things. So that's what's happening, and it took this long for the U.S. government, Congress, the presidency. And when I say the presidency, I don't mean just the president. I mean the office of the president, all the bureaucrats, the whole executive branch, possibly even the judiciary. I wouldn't be surprised. They've been using this place, this Ukraine, for all these licentious purposes. And now they're going to pull out and say, oh, well, you're too corrupt to help. Hey, they're done. They've raped this place. It's like I said, they were emptying Ukraine out of white Christians. That's what they were doing. Where that's headed from here, I don't want to say, but you can kind of put your 2 cents worth in and maybe guess, I suppose. And so now, of course, after Milley, General Milley said, oh, China's our partner. They're not an enemy. You remember saying that when he was under Trump? And then, of course, he called his Chinese counterpart. Milley's the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He calls his counterpart in China and says, Trump, if he's going to attack you, I'll let you know. Milley's, he should be in Leavenworth. And you wonder why I say the United States is also known as the alias of the Joker. And frankly, that's an insult to the Joker, because the Joker showed a lot more intelligence and a lot more plans, despite the fact he said he wasn't making plans. He was just doing things. The United States is actually a bigger fool and a bigger Joker than the Joker in The Dark Knight, Heath Ledger. It's disgusting. And ladies and gentlemen, this has all got to be part of the program. As I've long said, you are the target, the American people. And so many of the American people have been following lock, stock, and barrel all the things the government has been telling them to do. From the OWS, and I can mention a whole lot of other things. You can imagine what they are. The whole new culture, You know, I see these programs where kids are at these DRAGQUEEN parties given out by the schools and by the libraries and whatever, and the parents take them there, primarily the mothers. we wonder we wonder why our nation, and I'm not, the people that lead the country, during my case back in the 80s, they said it's the duty of the government to promote morality. Really? Well, they're doing a hell of a job with it now, aren't they? So that's the reason why I called this video the US, also known as the Joker. It's absolutely incredible. I could talk about a lot of other things. People are probably wondering about what's going on here. Yes, I'm growing my hair. I've always kept my hair kind of at a very conservative. Maybe that's the wrong word. Anyway, not real long. Even when I played in a band, back when I could grow my hair, I never did. It was not really ever much longer than it is right now. But I've decided to grow it a little longer, and as you all know, I've been doing the beard thing, but I didn't want to grow a beard like everybody else had. I was kind of looking at it the other day. You know, I've had some problems trimming it and all that. And I thought, you know, I want to do something really different, something that nobody else does. So if you look at me here, you can kind of see it the way the shape is. Oh, yeah, the mustache is pretty much the same. And it's taken me some time to fill in over here. But you notice the shape here. I don't think I've ever seen anybody do that kind of a shape. It's kind of hard to see with the lights here, but I sent a picture of it to one of my daughters, and she goes, "Oh, Dad, I'm not used to that. I like the scrub look. What do you think of it?" And I said, "I don't, you know, I'm just going to try it." And she showed it to her husband, and her husband goes, "Oh, that's badass. I like that." So I'm gonna you know, fill it in a little bit more, but not quite completely. I'm gonna sculpt it a little bit. I've never done this before, so I figure, what the heck, right? I do have something to drink here, by the way. I don't want to disappoint anybody, but this is organic apple cider vinegar. I've had a rough day today, so I need this to try to get my health back on course. You know, after you drink this for a while, you almost look forward to it. I know that sounds crazy, but you do. Well, it looks like we're holding up on the tube pretty good here, considering that I'm on Wi-Fi. I'm trying the Wi-Fi in the house, which we usually have problems with. I was going to do the connection with the phone company, but I thought I'd go ahead and try this one time. Okay, next subject matter I want to talk about. I saw a comment when I was talking about Tulsi Gabbard and her pushing her little, you know, I told you, I said, it looks like Tulsi Gabbard's the poster child for the DOD to get women to join the army or to join the military and eventually draft. And I had this person call, and he wasn't incorrect, or she, whoever it was, said, well, Tulsi Gabbard in that same thing said she was against the draft. Well, I just want to caution you all, okay? The first step is like they've been trying to do, that women can do the same thing that men can do there, and under the equal rights thing and all this other stuff with the sexes getting all mixed up and all that, the women should be conscripted. Yeah, she didn't say that, but she's setting it up. See, the politicians aren't going to talk about the draft. I mean, they have been. There have been some that have talked about it, but they know that primarily the American people don't want to go there. So she's not going to say that. But she's doing all the preparatory work so that there won't be any real problem as far as the government's concerned when they finally do it. Keep your kids out of what's going on here. I don't care if it's after this country, or, you know, this whole thing in Mexico. Somebody said they want to go bomb Mexico because of the cartels. Jeez, you know, I tell you what, it's either do nothing or it's over the top. The people running the government are juvenile delinquents, and they make the Joker look good. As far as the situation with China, we agree that Taiwan is Chinese. It belongs to China. Well, the one China policy we agreed to a long time ago. And yet Kevin McCarthy is going to do a Nancy Pelosi and go to Taiwan. He does a goodie by getting some of the January 6th video out and gives it to Tucker Carlson. He does some good stuff, and then he does this. I got to plug my phone in. It's going to die. So pardon me, guys. Okay, hopefully that keeps it going. So, if we say that we go along with the one China policy, I'm not saying if it's good or bad. I'm just saying that the United States agreed to it. And yet we're sending military boots on the ground, weapon systems, all of that to Taiwan. And Kevin McCarthy's going to do a Nancy Pelosi. Consistency is beyond the pale. The only consistency that the United States government exhibits is chaos. And frankly, juvenile delinquency. Unlike a lot of other people, I don't really care too much for clicks and followers. I don't do things to get clicks and followers. That's not really my style. I did this as a way to clean out karma from working for nearly 30 years for the evil empire and some of the other personal things that I did. Again, not my marriage situation. That's not counting. Okay, I'm not going to count that. Yeah, Gaddafi. Yeah, good example. And of course, I don't have any monetary thing here. I knew YouTube would demonetize me anyway, and the only advertising that's on is on the introduction when you first come on my channel. That little introduction to my channel there, which was done by a very wonderful lady by the name of Pam Jones, and she did use some copyrighted material. She doesn't get any money from it, but it's the people that she used some of their material. They get royalties from that, but it has nothing to do with me, okay? So, and YouTube might put ads on my channel. I don't think so. I've never actually seen any, except when you first come on the introduction there. There'll be something there, but usually there's not any other type of advertisement that I've seen. They don't want to. I guess they want to make sure that I know that I'm not welcome by their advertisers, which is fine with me because I've never really gone there anyway. So my point is that the only time I really feel like coming on is when I feel like I have something, fairly substantial, or at least, some entertainment, like when we do a nightcap. I'm going to talk about these here again in just a minute. Or just the live call-in shows, or like this is going to be a chat, that kind of thing. But normally, I don't come on every day to get my clicks up and to get my ad money and all that. I really just want to come and discuss things with you when I consider that it's probably something we should do. Not because I need to get some more ad revenue. I'm getting really discouraged by some of the people that even I follow. I don't want anybody to construe from what I'm about to say that I expect, for instance, this war in Ukraine to go any other way than it's going right now. The Russians are being very meticulous. The United States is in fact, in NATO, is in fact doing everything but, and they may even be doing this, having boots on the ground, but they're doing everything but that. And in warfare, frankly, I've explained it before, you supply a nation at war with you with weapons, and that country is now your enemy. So technically, we're at war with Russia, and a lot of people have been saying it. And now we're talking about going to war with China, in 2025. I mean, these people here, they're just juvenile delinquents. They're not grown-ups, not by any. And the Trump administration was no different, or any other for that matter. Look at George Bush. I had a girlfriend that really liked him so much. Of course, after my wife died, and I dated, a little bit, and she loved George Bush, and oh well. My point is, there are some people that I follow, and I understand what's going on as far as why the Russians are doing creeping across Ukraine. As I said about a week ago, they did start in earnest their air campaign. They started dropping gravity bombs from fighter bombers and even some of the bigger bombers, which is a signal that they're starting to soften up for the move forward, whenever that is. But you know what? I'm getting really tired of people saying these words. The situation in Bakhmut is getting more and more critical. I've heard those words for how long now? The situation is getting more critical in Bakhmut. Duh! So you got to come on and tell us that every time you come on? Damn near. So I frankly, some of the people I even follow, I'm just deciding that, what they're doing? They got to get that ad revenue. They got to get those clicks. They got to keep active. They'll come on and say the same. I hope I don't repeat myself too much. I mean, everybody repeats himself a little, and some things are important. For instance, my situation with the man-woman relationship. That is the crux of our species right now. That's the most under attack. Birth rates are dropping, and societies can't sustain themselves when that happens. They just can't do it. People say, oh, it's good that the population is dropping. No, no, no. You can reach a point of no return, especially when they're poisoning you, as they have been for a very long time, and especially the last 3 years. But anyway, so my point is, I try not to repeat too many things. Sometimes I'll do it because I think it needs emphasis, but to hear the same words almost every broadcast. The situation in Bakhmut is getting more critical. Duh! I don't need that information. Sometimes I feel like I'm listening to another Alex Jones when I hear these people saying that. And I don't mean to come down on Alex necessarily, but on his show, his InfoWars show, of course, the reason why I got so disgusted with that is because it's one continuous run-on commercial. He keeps saying, well, I haven't plugged this hour, so I'm like, yeah, you have. You may not have personally plugged, but your program has plugged your stuff the whole time. There's more advertisement on info. I just couldn't take it. Staying on there for 3 hours to get 20 minutes of information. And now I see some of these other people doing it. Their shows now are going for an hour and a half. But to tell me that things are getting more critical in Bakhmut. I won't do that to you, okay? At least I don't do it intentionally to get clicks and money, okay? That's not why I'm doing it. I found out Jackson Hinkle the other night said, he's got like 200,000 subscribers. You'll follow Jackson Hinkle. If you don't, you should. Very fine young man. Yeah, I know he sounds like he's a communist, but I know where he's coming from. And that's really not not in the sense that you would think. He has a lot of respect, for instance, for Putin. I don't blame him. I think people with some intelligence do. But at any rate, on the show last night, I remember Jackson Hinkle, the dive. If you haven't followed him, you need to. He was saying that they demonetized him. He doesn't get any ad revenue, but just the ad revenue. He was told that if he was getting ad revenue, in other words, monetized by YouTube for their advertisers, just off the ad revenue, he would be making $53,000 a month. Yeah, you heard me right. $53K a month just on the YouTube monetized advertisers. Not counting his merchandise, not counting his other Patreon or whatever else he uses for donations. That's an incentive to come on and yak for an hour and a half and not say anything other than just repeating something you said before. Like I said, I won't do that. Jackson Hinkle doesn't do it. He doesn't repeat things like that. Okay, he doesn't do that. He doesn't do that. Okay, off that topic. I showed you this the other day. I was in my car and I showed you, and I think I may have shown you when I was up on the board too. Uh, I'm very interested in starting up my Nightcap program again, and Nightcap is just going to be entertainment. You know, and you can go on the playlist here on my channel. Go across the top there, and where it says playlist. Plus, you'll find some juicy other information, as most everybody knows about my background, but which I'm open about. But on the playlist there, you can go to the Nightcap episodes, and they're kind of fun. You know, we talked about paranormal stuff. We talked about UFOs. I talked about the Shroud of Turin once. I interviewed a bartender. You know, just some fun stuff. Well, I want to do that again. I'm just not sure where to go from here. So maybe if some of you folks have some ideas, I'll tell you what happened. I've become such a pariah, and I knew I would be very controversial. I knew as I've said before, I'm a pariah, and you know, a lot of people consider me worse than that. Um, but at any rate, uh, I can't get, you know, a lot of people don't want to come on. They come on and let me banter with them, you know, live or even recorded, because I think they're, you know, guilt by association. They don't want to be a pariah and an anathema. If you don't know what anathema is, the Catholics will know, because I'm definitely an anathema as far as they're concerned, a pariah and a heretic. Actually, I'm that way for a lot of Christians too, for reasons they really don't have justification for it. But at any rate, so I'm going to try to figure out something I can do for Nightcap. Don't put it in the chat here. If you're really interested in, and if you can come up with an idea for some entertainment, and that's what we're talking about on Nightcap. It's just like I said, it'll be late night, well, late night, nighttime. It'll be a nightcap. You know, some people have a little drink for a nightcap. You know, well, we do fun stuff. All right. So if you have any ideas on that, maybe what you can do, if you have my Twitter account, you can send a direct message there, or the phone number that's listed, not on here, but the phone number that I have on the About. You go across that top again where the home videos, live stream, About, in the About column, or maybe it's in the community. That's in the About. You can get the number, and don't use the voicemail. It fills up really fast, and and it only has 20, so that's not going to do you a whole lot of good. Um, yeah, thank you, Mr. Goodman, or whoever that was. What was this? Your call-in show was a big hit. Leon Goodson. Yeah, I think that's kind of neat, and we'll do that. I don't want to do it a lot because then the novelty will kind of wear off. I want it to, you know, we'll do it once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks. That's why I'm doing the chat today, by the way, and also because it takes a lot of time. You know, I can't answer a lot of questions that way. Uh, you know, because we're conversing quite a bit. And I like the input by the people, as long as you don't take, you know, 20 minutes to, like a couple of the callers did. I let them go too long, and that's because I'm still kind of working out the bugs on that. But at any rate, so Nightcap is, I'm planning on doing some more of those. So if you have some ideas, text that phone number, 385, whatever it is. I don't remember the whole thing. Text. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Jesse, BP Earthwatch, just said there were big losses in the banking sector today. Again, you're the target, ladies and gentlemen. They're coming after your assets. They're coming after you, just like they have with all this other stuff. The wars are about taking your blood and treasure. This entire thing with the currency wars, to take your treasure, your property. The bank, you know, we had the bailouts, and now we have the bail-ins. I talked about that. What was it, Jesse? About a month ago or 2 months ago? About a month ago, I think, where Wells Fargo and Bank of America were taking people's money out of their accounts as part of the bail-in, which Congress lets them do. We're in trouble. You got to get your assets out of the Federal Reserve notes. You got to get it. You got to get barterable things. I hate to talk about metals, and thanks, Jesse. I appreciate BP Earthwatch is here. You know, Jesse is so good. His programs are so high quality. You know, he does the things about the solar activity, space stuff, geology, politics, religion. He just did some things on Revelation, which you all need to go watch. So BP Earthwatch on YouTube. Jesse is his name. Great guy. I've known him now for Jesse. How long have we been conversing? I mean, we even call each other up sometime. It's been like 5 years or more, something like that. As I recall, he reached out to me. Oh, Debbie Donovan's here. Debbie Donovan was the bartender that I interviewed for a nightcap. She can tell you all about it. She's on the chat tonight. Hi, Debbie. Glad you made it. Okay, so at any rate, I need some ideas for nightcap. If you'd like to text my phone number, the 385 number, and just text. Don't leave a voicemail unless you're inviting me out to dinner or something like that. Then you can call and leave a voicemail if it's open. If it's not, go ahead and text and then I'll see it because I do check that every day. Okay. I do have the next nightcap that I would like to do, and if my buddy's watching here, I'd really like to get him on, and maybe we can talk about some interesting things in my history that he's very well informed about. But we'll see. He's been a little hesitant there, and again, I don't blame him. I'm a pariah, right? I'm controversial. My phone's tapped by the federal government and probably the state too. I find these honeypots, but these guys run into me every once in a while. I see when they send like state troopers around. I might be out in the parking lot somewhere, and the state troopers come by and see if I'm meeting with anybody, so they can get license plates numbers about all the people I'm conspiring with to take down the government. Which they're paranoid. Little old me. I tell you, it's just. So I realize that those things are of concern to people, but we can't let them shut us down completely. We got to have our social lives. We got to have some serious time, like we're kind of mixing it up here, serious information, a little joking around too. We got to do what we got to do, and we got to do what we ought to do. So I'm hoping that anyway, my first reintroduction to a nightcap will be kind of an explanation of some of my escapades, because I think a lot of people still don't know all the stuff I've done. So, and my close friends do. 31 minutes late. Oh, that's okay. You made it anyway. Useless knowledge. Hey, how you doing? And hello, everybody else. So anyway, nightcap. That's what that is. And of course, this is the logo for all of my work. Royston Potter, the Intel community is our most dangerous domestic enemy. And this is what Pam Jones made for me, along with the whole introduction. I think it's about two minutes long, maybe not quite that long. The Potter Expositor. I won't be able to use OWS, the OBS streaming software with all the music and the clips and all that, because at least not here. I'm going to have to do it like I'm doing this and kind of on the fly with my banners. I might be able to figure out a way to put a little music in here. I'm not sure, but it's not going to be as fancy as it was back then. And again, I have to blame the internet connection on that. It just won't accept the bandwidth of all that. It just won't do it. So, okay, so that's every program I do, unless I'm doing some Hebrew instruction like I've done before, some information on Hebrew where we're going to break down a word, or it's got some other important aspect to it. Then I'll take this down and we'll use the whiteboard to write those things down like I have in the past. I got to tell you, I went to Bosnia and Herzegovina. It was right after the war there. It was just winding down, and 9/11 happened and some other stuff. And I was in Bosnia for a while, and I just loved the people. It broke my heart that neighbors who had known each other for years, sometimes decades, turned on each other over religious things. The Bosniak, Croats, that's kind of anyway, the Bosniak, they were Catholics, Bosniak Croats, and then the Bosniak Muslims killing each other. It was just a sad thing. And of course, the whole thing with Serbia and Kosovo, all these different things had happened. The Yugoslavia fell apart. When Tito died, they started to fractionalize, balkanize, and that's where the term came from, by the way, balkanization, which I tell you that they're trying to do to Russia and they're trying to do to us. Our own leaders are trying to do that. Well, I got there and I just love the people. I loved the music. I loved the food. And, I wasn't able to interact with them too much because, it was a military operation. And, you can't fraternize, with the locals too much. But, we'd go out, the command staff would sometimes go out and, we'd go to a restaurant or, something like that. Anyway, it was really, and then there were people that worked for us, of course. And I think some of those were considered to be traitors by some of their fellow countrymen. And I feel really guilty in a lot of ways of being there under NATO because that's who I was working for. And also, I brought Bulgaria in NATO. I was the officer in charge of that. Um, but at any rate, uh, some of the bad things that I did, and I kind of knew, but I was still trying to feel things out about, how I was going to react to all this. So, but I found out a lot. Anyway, getting back to it. So, I just really love the Bosnian people. I went to the Sarajevo cemetery. It has it is the largest cemetery in Europe. Bigger than the D-Day cemeteries. I think it's bigger than Arlington Cemetery. So many of their people were killed in that conflict in the 90s and early 2000s that it's a huge cemetery. And I look at those people when they dance and how happy they are. They hug each other all the time. And to see that devastation, that, ladies and gentlemen, is what they want to do to you here and what they want to do to Russia. Split you up, make you kill each other, makes their job a lot easier. Well, NATO and the evil people did a good job in Yugoslavia. Clinton did a great job bombing that country. And then we had old General Wesley Clark, who was the commanding general of NATO at the time, bombing civilians. We'll bomb them and we'll get them to do what we want them to do. And we'll say, oh, it was an accident. By the way, General Wesley Clark was the commanding general of Fort Hood that supplied armored vehicles and other weapons to the federal government at the attack on Waco that killed all those women and children and men. Wesley Clark did that. Helped the FBI and the ATF murder those people under Janet Reno's bullshit about the federal government had to protect the children because they were being abused. That's not the federal government's purview. And they said weapons too. Well, they had illegal weapons. No, they didn't. And even if that were the case, they could have caught. I'm almost going to call him by the wrong name. The leader of that group. I don't know why it's escaping me right now, but he went on walks every morning. David Koresh. They could have arrested him on one of his walks. No, they wanted to make an example of those people, and then they tried to do it other places, right? Yeah, they did. I won't get into that. The Randy Weaver thing, of course, is an example. There have been others. Certainly, the Bundy Ranch was another example of that. Okay, so that's kind of where I guess I am tonight. Ending up with saying that the Bosnians are great people. So on Saturday night, remember I said I was going out Friday night? Well, I did that. And then I went out again Saturday night. And the Bosnians were having that live here in Salt Lake, at least a group of them were in there, had all the tables reserved. It was really great. They didn't have Bosnian food there that night, but the music, they had a two-man band that played Bosnian music. And they were dancing. It was mostly women, I might add. And I went up to this group of women. Of course, I would do that, right? I mean, I figured all of them probably were married and they were out just, having a girls' night out. And that's what they said. I came up to this group and I said, where are the guys? And they said, well, a few of them are here, but this is girls' night out. And most of us are just here for a good night with each other. And they dance, I wanted to go dancing, but none of the guys were up there, so I thought it looked a little bad. I didn't want anybody to accuse me of trying to come on to their wife. So I didn't go up, but I really did want to dance. But it was funny, I was sitting there, and this lady came and sat down with these other women. And I was spellbound, frankly. I was saying, wow. Because I like the look of, a nice looking Bosnian lady is something to behold. And I thought, wow. And I didn't see a ring. I was sitting across the aisle from her. And she's with all these other women, right? Probably a group of about a dozen, I guess. And then other ladies from other tables are coming up, and they're talking back and forth. And and I thought about it, and I thought about it, and I finally got out a card. Actually, I got out 3 cards. I won't explain why, but I went over and I had them ready, and I came over and I asked him. I said, "What is this? Where are all the guys? Aren't you all married? Where are the men?" And not the lady I was interested in, but the one that was sitting next to her. She says to me, "Oh, we're all married. Our husbands aren't here because this girl's night out, but we're all married, but she isn't," which was the exact same one that I thought was kind of cool. So I said, well, that's really the information I was after. See how I did that? And I turned to her and I said, here's my card, 3 cards actually. And like I said, there was a reason I did that. And then I just said, if you like to go out for coffee or something, I'd like to do that. Text me, and then we can talk about it. She never called. I never really expected her to, but they did tell me she was single, and about the right age. I don't know if she's divorced. I don't know what the situation was, but I was. It's hard to get me Twitter-pated. And I was Twitter-pated that night. So hopefully her little wall will come down and she will call me or text me at some point. I think she'd be, because I went to her country. She speaks really good English. All of them do. I think they used to probably teach it in the Bosnian schools, but she speaks good English. All of them did, and some of them been here for quite a while, probably 2 decades or more. But we could talk about her country. I could talk to her about all. Well, you know me. I can talk about just about anything. If you want to talk about quantum mechanics, do that. If you want to talk about geopolitics, I can do that. Whatever. Okay. Well, I probably talked too much already. Let me go ahead and see what you guys want to talk about in the chat. Oh, Hound Jog, you lost friends at Waco? Is that what you're saying? I'm sorry to hear about that. That was totally unnecessary, and it just shows you how criminal and how violent you. They always say, like Director FBI Director Christopher Wray and AG Merrick Garland now says, because they were going after the parents for crying and yelling about, the crap that the school boards were doing to their kids behind their backs, right? And you know what I'm talking about. Hopefully I can't say too much. But they say, oh, no, we were just worried about violence. And look at the violence that the federal government did at Waco, at Ruby Ridge with Randy Weaver. They tried to bomb the Twin Towers back in 1990, what it was, 92? The FBI actually gave them real explosives and everything. They really wanted them to do it then. I could talk about Bundy Ranch. I was there. I saw what they were trying to do there. And they say that we're violent because we are calling them out for their crimes and their corruption. I'm sorry you lost friends at Waco. Lon Horiuchi, who shot Vicky Weaver, and the boy, and the dog, and I think the friend, showed up at Waco. He needs to go to prison. But they protect him just like they protect the Clintons. By the way, another Clinton associate just died mysteriously, a young lady. UFO's Nightcap. Hey, Troy, 686-6562. I actually did one of those. We did a UFO Nightcap. I did it. It was quite a long one, as I remember. I had the picture of This was back, when the Navy first came out and showed, I think it was the USS Nimitz, and the fighter jets were following that one UFO that was going across. So I've actually done that. But yeah, we could do another one of those. I'd like to get somebody else, as a guest who could speak more authoritatively. So, we'll see. Was that Christian versus Muslim? Yes. You mean in Bosnia? Yes. Yes. Yeah, pretty much. It was even more delineated than that. The Serbs are Protestants, the Croats are Catholic, and you do have Bosnian Serbs and Bosnian Croats and Bosnian Muslims. And of course, you had Islam, Muslims there too. But what they did was, with the Balkanization, is they turned all those groups against each other, and it was just all-out war. Almost as bad as what you're seeing in Bakhmut right now. Almost that bad. Yeah, of course they're talking about nukes, but I'm going to tell you, that's primarily to scare you. Okay, that's to scare you into doing whatever the government tells you to do. Let's see what this says here. Sorry, I lost. BP Earthwatch is saying something here. I don't want to miss it. Let me see what he's saying here. 16 craft came 100 feet above. Oh, yeah. Jesse's talking about when he was in Phoenix, and I'm aware, I was in California at the time when this happened. Um, this formation of UFOs went over Phoenix, and apparently the formation was huge. Jesse could probably tell you more about it. Maybe we can even get him on to talk about it. Maybe that'd be a good nightcap, to talk to Jesse about UFOs. I don't know how you feel about that, Jesse, but yeah, I was getting reports from people who were at. I was in this place in California, and there was a large group of people from all over the country, and there were people from Arizona there who were getting calls from their family members and friends telling them that this thing was happening in Phoenix. Yeah, and you never hear about it anymore. Great to see you too, Laurie Tillman. Same thing. What kind of crafts? Leon Goodson's asking. I'm sure maybe you could answer what kind of crafts they were. As I remember, they were lights, but there were a lot of them, and they were in a huge formation that went over Phoenix there. Yeah, they call them the Phoenix Lights. Yeah, Phoenix Lights. Yeah. I'm going to back up here and just see if anybody's got something going on that I should address. Karen Carpenter says, you could do an act like Johnny and Ed did with a turban and a mayonnaise jar from Funkin' Wagnall's porch, Roy. Karnak the Magnificent. I've done some acting. I don't know if, I've done a lot of things. Not only did I make some movies where I acted in them. I played Pontius Pilate in The Crimson Thread. I played a Roman soldier. Let's see, what else did I do in that movie? I think that was about it for that movie, as far as I can remember. Oh, I played Jesus walking away. You just see me walking away. It was really hard doing that. I wasn't really happy with the way it ended up, because I found out that I could do the scene even though I was using blue screens and green screens primarily, and very rarely going on location. Um, getting the actors on camera was hard. It was so hard. Personnel was always the most difficult thing to do. So I even had to play Jesus a couple times, but you didn't see my face because I wanted you to know about the other guy who was playing it. But I was also on the set of I was an extra in This Boy's Life with Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Ellen Barkin. I got to tell you something about Ellen Barkin. Her name fits her. She's rude. She couldn't have picked a better name. If that's a real name, it fits her. If it's her stage name, it still fits her. Barkin. Oh my gosh, I could tell you some things that happened on the set, but I won't. And I was also in Miracles and Other Wonders. It was a television series where I played a police officer. Gee, that was real hard. I think I've done a couple of other things too, but I can't really remember right now. Okay. Oh, Karen Carpenter says, yeah, she remembers the show with Debbie on there. Debbie actually did 2 shows. We talked about the bartending and some of the things that happened to bartenders. Then we talked about her being a Democrat in support of Trump. That was an interesting show. I'll admit that. General Perna told us this was the beginning of the end. D-Day, I'll never forget. Yeah, General Perna was the general that Trump put in charge of the military. Will get it out in a big way. And now we find out that the DOD was probably behind the whole thing to begin with. Why? To tag you, to surveil you, to get you so that they can take away your free will. They're probably in cahoots with Klaus Schwab and Yuval Noah Harari. And if you don't know about Noah Harari, he says that you guys are worthless. That we need another flood to take you away, out of here, and that they'll be the gods and they'll just have everything. But in the meantime, they're going to take away your free will. They're going to get into your mind. They're going to know things about you that you don't know. The guy's wicked evil. If there's a Lucifer on the world, that's Noah Harari, and he's Jewish. Did you know that? But he's also got a husband or a wife. No, I'll call him a husband. I think he's the husband in the relationship. All right. Okay, I'll jump back down to the bottom here where everything's going on here. We've already been going for how long? Jeez, how long have we been going now? Oh, almost an hour. I best get to the chat here. Debbie Donovan says, actually, I would Mel Gibson. Do you know people used to say I look like Mel Gibson? I was going to be a stand-in. I have to tell you another. I was Mark Wahlberg's stand-in in Boogie Nights. Did you know that? That was me. I was Mark Wahlberg's stand-in in Boogie Nights. That's not true. Some people get that, some people won't. It's probably better if they don't get it. Jesse, you probably got it, I'll bet. Debbie Donovan, what? No, I'm just kidding, Debbie. I'm just You know what? I got to tell you where that came from. My doctor is constantly on me to find a lady. And again, I date, but I just, I'm looking for a specific one, and I figure there's no trying to force a situation, which is one reason why I go out and, I'll approach women pretty easily. I'm bold. I'll go up and say hi, and that used to work. Women don't like that anymore. They either want to do it themselves or they think you're weird because you'll come up and say hi to them and compliment them. The world's totally changed since, anyway. But my doctor, he says, you got to come up with some good one-liners, just to get their attention. Now he's pretty bold, and I'm not going to tell you all the things about him. He's quite a character, but one of the things he's actually the one that told me, he says, you need to tell them, when you meet a woman, say hi, I'm so and so, and if they ask you what you do, say, well, I was Mark Wahlberg's stand-in in Boogie Nights. So that wasn't original from me. Okay, that was his idea. Not true, Roy. Carrie Richardson. What's not true? What's not true? I don't know. Carrie Richardson. You're saying that. And then Mark Curcia says, Roy, when you least expect it, you will find someone. I don't do one-night stands. Never have. I don't plan on doing hookups in bars. I'm not a swinger. And that seems to be where everything is these days. Seems to be where everything is. I'll tell you another thing that happened to me. Psychosis. Let's see. I want to get this from Carrie Richardson. What's not true, Carrie? Here. That women don't like to be approached. Well, okay. Well, then there's something wrong with my technique. Okay, because it's rare these days, and it might just be because of what's going on in Utah. That's where I am most of the time. Wyoming women, I don't even try. I won't tell you why. If I'm going to go out on a date, I got to go to Salt Lake. I do respectfully. Oh, okay. What's this? Untamable, your twin flame is in Florida and she feels the same. Well, text me on the phone number and tell me who that is, Untamable. I've been approached from a lot of women on YouTube and on Twitter. Unfortunately, as I said here some time ago, it hasn't worked out very well. Maybe my true character comes out when people get to know me. I don't know. Anyway, I got to tell you this story too because it's kind of funny. It's when I did after my wife died. One of my daughter. Well, I went to my doctor called me up. It was like 3 days after my wife died. My doctor called me up, and he says, "Hey, Roy, how's everything going?" And I said, "Well, Doc, Carol died here the other day." He says, "Yeah, I was kind of afraid of that." He says, "I need you to come in and see me." I was ripped up. I hadn't been out of the house, and I still didn't get out of the house for a long time after that. But anyway, I go in to see him, and we sit down and he's asking me how I'm feeling. He actually has me talk to a social worker. He wasn't afraid I was going to hurt myself or anything. He just knew that I was busted up. If you knew Carol, you'd understand why. And I've talked about her before. I'll show you something. I really shouldn't do this because people are going to say, "Oh, he lusted after her. That's why." Which I could talk about again. I could talk about this whole stupid thing that Christians push on lust. There's a guy on. Here I go adding different stories. But there's one guy in particular on YouTube who is always saying, the lust of the flesh. This is why you want sex so much because you got this problem in it. The guy that puts those things out, he's the guy with the problem, and he's projecting it on everybody else. I'm going to show you this picture. Give me a second. The guys are going to go, "Oh my gosh, that's Carol? Oh my gosh." Okay. So back on the story before I show you Carol's picture. And I've shown you pictures of her before, but none like this. And she's all real. So my doctor has me talk to the social worker, just to make sure I'm okay. Then I come back to my regular doctor, my primary care physician, and we're sitting down there. He says, "Okay, Roy, here's a prescription. You have to take this prescription." He's writing it on a prescription pad. I think I've told this story before. And I went, "Doc, I don't take pills. I'm not going to take something to calm me down or whatever, or any sleep medication. You know that. You've been my doc for a long time. I don't do that." And he looks at me, he takes the prescription off. He says, "If you don't fill this prescription, I'm going to cancel all your benefits." I went, "Doc." Then I looked at it, and it said cruise on it. And this wonderful doctor, this wonderful man, had already talked to one of my daughters and arranged for me to go on a cruise with her. It was about 6 months after my wife died, 7 months. But he had set this thing up like right away. So I went on this cruise with my daughter and her husband and their friends. I was single. Loved the cruise. As a matter of fact, there's a picture of me on the cruise boat on this channel. If you go to the bar over the top, you'll see me standing on you can see the ocean in the background. I'm standing on one of the lower decks taking the picture. I think my daughter may have taken that picture, but anyway. So I think we were 3 days into the cruise, and you have this formal dinner, the first time, and we did the formal dinner, and so I'm going to let all the married couples, my daughter and all their friends, go off their way, and I'm just going to wander down through. It was the mall. They have these big malls in the ship. So I go out there and I have to cross this bridge, and this really gorgeous brunette comes over and grabs me by the arm and says, "I'm going to walk with you. We're going to be together here tonight." Obviously I'm still hurting from my wife, dying, but who's going to turn down, some companionship? And I don't mean one night stand again. We're going to go, sit down and, whatever, have a chat or whatever. So we go sit down at this little cafe, and like I said, this is in the movie that I made. It's called Loneliness, and this incident I put in the movie. It's not on a ship there, but it's in a garden thing. But at any rate, the storyline is pretty much the same. So I'm sitting there talking to her, and she says, "So who are you here with?" And I said, "Oh, my daughter and her friends. I'm here alone. I don't, And she goes, "You mean you don't have a wife here?" And I said, "No, my wife died." She goes, "Oh, your girlfriend? Do you have your girlfriend here? Do you see where this is going?" And I said, "No, no, no. Really, I'm just here I'm here alone. Other than I'm with my daughter and her husband and their friends." She goes, "Really? You're really here by yourself?" And I said, "Yes." I'm quoting her now. She goes, "You're boring." And she gets up and walks away. She was looking for a threesome. This is my wife, Carol. This picture was taken probably about the time she got sick. She died in 2008. She was diagnosed in 2005, but we kind of knew something was going on in 2004. So this is shortly before that. I've shown you other pictures before. Us together on the train in Italy. Her standing in Verona in front of the Roman arena there. Verona is where Romeo and Juliet was. We spent some time in Italy together. I think I've shown you a couple of other pictures too. She was beautiful. She was smart. And she knew what women's lib was about, and she rejected it. So as I struggle for my composure again, I have those pictures in here. You don't see all the stuff that's in the room, but I have her pictures all over the place. And, I'm not sure that's even healthy to do. In the Bible, for instance, it talks about, there's Abraham and his wife Sarah dies, and he goes to this other part of the land and buys a piece of land from this guy. It says, "I need a piece of land to bury my dead out of my sight." So I'm not sure it's healthy to have all these pictures around, but I'll tell you what. Now, do I expect another woman to be like Carol in every aspect? Hell no, that doesn't happen. But I mean, we even would have some pretty good debates. I think I've told you we really only had two really what I would consider to be some two rough disagreements, but even those 2 hours later at the maximum, it was all done and forgotten. It's not healthy. Oh, but I've got other pictures, Kay Grace. I just wanted you to see that one. And there's nothing wrong with having pictures like that, except that it makes me reminisce a lot. I've got some very nice pictures of it. I'll show you another one. Just because she was sexy, and every woman should be, I don't care what these guys on it's talking about. Oh, lust and all that. I did a whole program on lust. It's not what you Christians think it is. It's been distorted. And I've talked about that. Go back and look at my religion series when I talk about this. Is a good picture. This is also in Venice. All right. I've got lots of nice pictures. I've got our wedding picture. I've got us at my my high school reunion. I've got us in Hawaii. I've got us at a parade on Thanksgiving Day. No, it's very good. If I didn't have that picture, any of those pictures, and again, it's probably not healthy in the regard that it causes me some. I look at them and I really, miss her. Why does somebody like Kay Price have to come on here and put? I had a sage one time tell me, Roy, you're going to be out there and you're going to do things that nobody else has done. You're going to set the world on fire, but I'm going to tell you what. Every time that you light a fire, the whole world's going to be there with a bucket of water to put it out. Thanks, Kay. All right. Yeah, Mark Curcio is saying lust is normal, not dirty. It depends on how it's used. It's like I said, there's a righteous use for everything and an unrighteous use. And the scriptures are very specific about the type of lust or desire. The word is just desire, longing. You can lust for meat. I mean, Moses talks about, in Exodus there when, the Israelites were wanting meat. And the word used is they lust after the meat of the birds, right? You lust every day. These people that find fault with lust, stop eating. Because that's what you're doing. You're lusting after the food. You could say, oh, no, it's only if it's gluttony. No. The word that's used in Hebrew is, and I could give you another lesson on it. I'm not going to do it tonight. I did it before. I'll tell you, I'll bring up this one. Okay? If you don't lust, if a man and wife don't lust for each other, they got it all wrong. They better find something to rekindle that. I don't care what all these crazy Christians and others say about, you can't lust after your wife's flesh. Bullshit. Fuses you together. There's a guy that I follow, and he was talking about the book of Job. Hold on a second. He's talking about the book of Job, and I could read it, but I don't want this to be a spiritual discussion. Like I said, this is organic apple cider vinegar. Okay. It's in Job. You can go look it up. I think it's chapter 31, verse 1. And basically, Job is, and this is why the dividing of the scriptures into chapters and verses is not always a good idea. As a matter of fact, I would suggest that it is one of the, although it helps you to be able to find things quickly. For instance, I can tell you to go to Job chapter 31, verse 1. I can tell you to do that so you know how to find it, right? That's the only benefit of dividing the Bible, the books of the Bible, up in chapters and verses, because it's not always done like you would read a book and different things, it's going into a new subject matter or that kind of a thing. In Job 30, he's talking about all of his afflictions. And that he really can't perform anymore. Take that however you want. And then in verse 1 of chapter 31, it's a continuation of that thought line. Christians use this chapter 31, verse 1 as a reason not to look at a girl. Yeah, you can lust to the point where you're coveting, right? And that's really what Jesus is talking about. Is when you look upon a woman to lust after her. He's actually talking about the commandment, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, thy neighbor's house, or anything that is thy neighbor's. But the word in Greek they use, people translate as lust. But it's really that command about coveting. So it's not looking at a single girl and saying, gee, I think she'd be rocking. I'm going to try to make her my girlfriend. No, that's not it. What it is, as he said, thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Because if you do that, Then, wife, I just said it. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. Lust after thy neighbor's wife. So thou shalt, if you look upon a woman to lust after her, have you already committed adultery in your heart? He's talking about that commandment of coveting. You still haven't committed adultery unless that thought then you put into action and you're starting to try to figure out how to get that woman away from her husband. Or if you're married, as a man, you know I've explained this before. If a man is under a vow to be just with one woman, he can't change that vow without her consent because it's a contract. So he can commit adultery with a single woman if he's promised not to be with somebody else without altering the contract with his wife. That gets into a whole nother thing. But the point is in Job here. So what he does is he says, well, I have a covenant. Why should I look upon a maid? Yeah, he says that. But they take it out of context and they forget everything that he just said, that he's destroyed, that he has nothing left, that he's withering away, that his flesh is coming off his bones. He's got these boils. He's not the man he used to be. That's why he's saying, well, why should I look at a maid? I can't do anything. I can't do anything about it. But they want to say, see, even Job says you're not supposed to look at a maid. That's lusting. So I have a real problem with people that want to recite, as you all know, recite these scriptures and take them out of context and then try to change them from what you were designed to be. God made you male and female and said that he did it perfectly and that there's nothing to be ashamed of. Okay, I'm off of that. Okay. Well, thank you, Pocahontas. I think that's who that was. It looks like I lost it. All right. Rats. What are your thoughts of divorce? Sierra 5. Well, we're getting into scriptural stuff again. The whole concept of divorce is totally understood. Again, it's used as a source of power and control over you. Jesus said that he's quoted as saying, I'm not even sure he said it because it's not quite in line with Torah, and things are changed around in there, and I'm not going to get into that other than to say, he said, from the beginning it wasn't so. Moses only gave you divorce because of the hardness of your hearts. From the beginning it wasn't so. Well, you don't understand the culture that he's talking. He's talking to the people who were Herodians, who were, they get married and then they divorce their wife so they could marry a younger woman. Then they divorce her when she got a little older and marry another one. That's what he's talking about. Because in the Old Testament, it says you can have divorce. For instance, a wife, if her husband refuses to do the duty of marriage to her, and yes, the duty of marriage is what you think. Yeah, that's what it is. If he refuses to give her the duty of marriage, that's grounds for her to divorce him. Or if she denies him the duty of marriage, it's reason to divorce. If he's abusing her, it's grounds. And I mean, it has to be legitimate abuse. It can't be, a little argument over, the toothpaste tube. So divorce isn't good, but I'll tell you what, if you're in a miserable situation, God has no expectation that you stay there. Christians are pulling their hair out and they want to toss rocks. Remember, I'm not doing this for fame, fortune, or even to influence your will. I just tell you what it is. Am I wrong sometime? Yeah, but not about marriage and women and the man-woman relationship. I know that down to a T. And I've talked about it before. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Useless knowledge, you're actually right. but there are responsibilities, and that's really what it comes down to. And in the Old Testament, it says if a man lies with a woman, um, lies with a maid, um, and of course, things happen, then he's required to marry her. She doesn't have to accept. It doesn't say she has to. Oh, okay, yeah, okay, okay, we did this, and we had a roll in the hay, and now you're required by your scripture to marry me, but I don't want to marry you. Okay, he's off the hook. I'm not saying that, and I've said this before. I didn't really want to get into this tonight. Um, Promiscuity is not good because the sexual act is so binding, but God has he gives parameters for that, and I've talked about it before. I'm not going to talk about it tonight. But there are marriages, there are concubines, there are contractual relationships for periods of time. A lot of different things that most people don't understand. Fornication is not unwedded people having sex. It has, I mean, it can be that, but it's actually has to do with um, strange women in foreign nations. That's really what it's about. Because if it was fornication, then Jesus wouldn't have said, right, a man can't divorce his wife saving for the cause of fornication. Well, what? Does that mean that fornication is the same thing as adultery? Well, then why didn't he say it? And I've explained all that before. Let's get off that subject. Um, Gary Richardson, thanks. Now I have Billy Joel on my running through my head. That's funny. Oh, that's good. All right. Oh, okay. Paul Skinner. Geez, Paul, wait a second. Let's discuss our Second Amendment, Sweet Pea. I'm going to go there, but I'm going to, Kerry Richardson, I don't want to discuss kabod and Noahide. You'd be surprised at what kabod means. And I don't want to go there tonight, but it's not good. Okay? And the Noahide laws are a problem, but I don't want to do that tonight. I did that a little while ago. We can't get that deep in this tonight. Why is there... okay, let's see here. Sweet Pea, you want to talk about the Second Amendment, but I want to address Paul Skinner here. He says, Roy, please, could you talk in depth about the Teheb, the restorer prophet? Thanks, Paul. Paul, go to my Eisenman series, and I talk about it there. I've also, you can find in the Eisenman series, and I'm sure there's something in the religion series too. To get into an in-depth discussion would be kind of too much. But it's in my estimation that the person that we have of the Shroud of Turin and that whole story was about was actually the Samaritan Teheb. Jesus was even accused of being a Samaritan at one point by the Jews, right? Uh, the obfuscation and the stealing of the story. There's a lot of evidence that in the New Testament the truth was altered and a new storyline was developed. But anyway, the Teheb, you won't find that in Josephus under that name. In Josephus, it's called the Samaritan prophet. And I have Josephus here. I could read about it. I did a presentation on it, in the Religion and Eisenman series. But you can look up the Samaritan prophet if you have a Josephus. It's in the Wars of the Jews or Antiquities, I forget which. But you can look up the Samaritan prophet. And in the Samaritan culture, he was called the Teheb. And what it means is the restorer. And Pilate did crucify him for insurrection. You don't get crucified for teaching the Beatitudes. So anyway, I can't go into much more depth here. It would take a lot of time. But in my research, I think that the Teheb was the real guy. He was the right lineage. He was an Ephraimite, not a Judahite. He fit the prophecy that Jacob pronounced upon Judah and Joseph. Jacob was Israel, of course, and during the blessings of the 12 sons, he said to Judah, as far as Judah is concerned, the the scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver between his feet until Shiloh comes. Shiloh is where the Ark of the Covenant was to be kept with the Moshite priests, and not in Jerusalem. That's all changed later. It was a political thing. Um, so Shiloh would be an Ephraimite, and that's who the Teheb was. So he fits the prophecy, that portion of it. Okay. The Noahide laws and all that. Kerry Richardson, maybe I've done it before. Maybe some other time I will tell you that the Noahide laws on the surface aren't too bad, except for the one about idolatry. Because if you believe in Jesus, they can execute you. They can cut your head off. They can crucify you. They can burn you at the stake. See the problem with that? Yeah. The Chabad Lubavitcher. I gotta be careful talking about that one. Um, if you have a Gesenius, look it up in Hebrew. You'll probably go, ooh, ow. Okay, let's see here. What else we got? Standing foot. Well, that's nice of you. I didn't mean to get into the spiritual stuff tonight. Like I said, I wanted to do some of these other things. But I do have a whole bunch of notes on that thing. And I put those notes together again when I saw this guy on there saying, wanting sex all the time, there's something wrong with you. And if I saw him in person, I'd say, well, gee, wanting food all the time? I mean, not gluttony. You don't want to, constantly stuffing your face. But what are you talking about? You're so intent on telling everybody else they have a problem. Apparently you've got a problem, buddy. So I wrote down a whole bunch of notes. That thing on Job was one of them. That's totally taken out of context. Not to look at a maid. I have a covenant not to look upon a maid. Yeah, because my life's destroyed. Yeah, Oh, Kerry Richardson, only asking for a future discussion. Yeah, we could probably get into that again. It really gets the Jews upset. They get upset at me. I know a couple of rabbis. They don't like me talking about, you've seen me break down Hebrew words into the letters and give you the meaning of the word based upon the letters. That's called notarchon. There's also Tamorah, Thashrak, and of course everybody I think knows about gematria. It's not numerology, but I learned that stuff many years ago, and I'm pretty good at it. And thanks to a Jewish rabbi who I was taught under, and also another guy who was a sage. And when I say sage, he was a very wise man. Did a lot of crazy things, but sometimes the most intelligent people do crazy things. But I learned a lot from him, and then there's one or two others. So, I talk about that stuff, and they really don't like me talking about the secrets because I get into the Sefer Yetzirah, the Bahir, the Zohar. A lot of you won't even know what I'm talking about. Some of you will. Talmud I stay away from. I went through it, but there are problems with the Talmud. I've talked about that before. Some good things, some not so good things. But when you get into things like the Noahide laws and the Chabad Lubavitcher, which, by the way, Jared Kushner is one of those, and his wife, Trump's daughter. And Trump, I think, is a closet Lubavitcher. For reasons I won't go into here, but you talk about that, and boy, they go crazy. I get calls. Why are you talking about that? They're not supposed to know that stuff. That's only for the initiated to know, or the people, the people of God. Well, this is the apocalypse. This is the time of the revealing. All truth will be known. You can't have your little corner of the market anymore. This has to go out to all people, which is why I'm willing to come out and put my neck on the line and get attacked by people who don't know what they're talking about. And some people say, "Gee, Roy, you don't give anybody." I try to give everybody their space. I try to let everybody believe what they want, but there are just some things I got to be adamant about. And of course, man-woman relationship is the big one because it's being destroyed. Like I said, They're destroying it all. The birth rates are falling across the world. That's not a good thing. Statistically, it may be we're approaching the point of no return. But anyway, so yeah, we'll talk about all those things again sometime. Maybe I'll do another live stream, or maybe it should be on here. I'm not so sure. On a chat where I can control it a little bit better, because on the call ends I don't have a bank or I can push like a board I can control things. So the phone goes off and you're hearing the ringer, and it's disconcerting, I know, but it's still good, I think, and we're going to continue that. But if we get into some real serious stuff again, like the situation between men and women, the real point of lust, that it's not a bad thing at all. Again, things are used righteously and they're used unrighteously. And Jesus has talked about coveting your neighbor's wife, not looking at a woman. It's the same thing. Matter of fact, there's a scripture that says, it's in Deuteronomy, I think. If you go to battle and amongst the captives you see a beautiful woman and you desire her, same word, you can take her as a wife, but you have to let her mourn for 30 days. She clips her nails and cuts her hair. Not always cut her hair, but clip the nails. That's so that they would know that 30 days had gone by. Okay? And she's got to flush herself out, the menstrual cycle. That's a cleansing thing. So that was another thing. Let that happen so that, you're not mixing things. Wouldn't be good. Okay. Oh yeah, Aurora Borealis on Job. Yeah, um, yeah, I have. I don't think on YouTube. I've given lectures about it elsewhere. I don't think I've done it on YouTube. It's real, as you probably know, Aurora. It's pretty complex, really, and there's a lot there. There's a lot there. So yeah, Rooster Cogburn is bringing up the bank losses again that BP Earthwatch did, Jesse. And yeah, we've been talking about this for a long time. Again, the buying or the banks actually taking your money. The bailouts where the government gave tax money or whatever to the banks that were failing, but now they're the bank-ins, which means that they can steal your money out of your account. You've agreed to it, and the Congress let them do that. It's on the little fine print on your terms of service or whatever it is they do. So thank you for getting that out, Jesse. We're coming on that quick. I know they're pushing the whole idea of the digital currency. They're starting all these wars. They say we got to keep track of where the money's going. Hey, did you see that? Matt Gaetz and some others are there. Asking the guys in the DoD, hey, how come you're not tracking? You say under the law you have to know who the end user is and where you have to be able to inventory. And they're coming up with all excuses. Oh well, we did it like this and we did it like this. He says I didn't ask you that. Yes or no? Are you tracking it or not? Well, the guy answers, well, the regulation says this. And Matt Gaetz says, don't lecture me. I want an answer, yes or no. Are you inventorying the money and the materials that we're sending Ukraine to the end user, and can you verify it? Well, that's how they are, because it's all coming back to people's pockets here, here, DC, Brussels, and maybe even the Vatican. Okay, hey, we've been going for an hour and 20 something minutes here now. Let me see. And I haven't answered where are the two witnesses? There's a question as to what those two witnesses are. What? Looks like I keep breaking up here. Dang. I didn't know we were breaking up that much, but apparently we are. The two witnesses. I don't want to get into that either. I think I will have some scotch, but that's not what this is. This is organic apple cider vinegar. Some people say it's Elijah and Moses because they didn't die, right? but there are other indications that may actually be talking about nations in the last days. A lot of different possibilities. One of the things that I liked about Michael Heiser, Dr. Michael Heiser, who, as I've said, died here it's been about 3 weeks ago now. Great biblical scholar, linguist, a lot of other things. Learned a lot from him. Uh, he said the eschatological stuff, he kind of just puts that aside. He's more interested in your everyday life and living it correctly, because the eschatological stuff has some problems with it, and if you get too far gone in it, you can you can miss the important parts of your life that you should be paying attention to. Okay, I'm 5 by 5 to you. Thanks, letting me know, Jesse. My thing here says that I've only been going for 103 seconds, and then I only have 92 watching, and yet I can see on my counter there it says 303. So I don't know what's going on. Okay, but we've been going for a while here. I hope you've had a good time. We did some serious stuff. Talked about the problem going on in Ukraine, and it's not just Ukraine. We've got problems all over the place, and these people here are causing it all. These people here are causing it all. Germany now wants to blame Ukraine for taking out the pipelines, right? Schultz knows damn well who did it, as does the leader of NATO, Stoltenberg, who's from Norway. You don't have to be a logic major, a doctor of philosophy. You don't even have to be a CIA agent to know who did the Nord Stream pipeline. Newland's saying it won't go forward if Russia goes into Ukraine. Biden says, when asked, how are you going to stop it? He says, we'll stop it. We've got a way. In criminology, that's called proof of intent. And that's the first person you go to talk to under probable cause that committed the crime. Now say, oh, we don't know who did it. Evil to the core. All right. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. Again, we talked about a bunch of different things. I appreciate the time that we've had. Again, I'm hoping to do a nightcap. Maybe we could do something like that with Jesse. I like to do an in-studio interview, but like I say, maybe a call-in's about the best we could do. But yeah, UFOs would be good again. That'd be fine. I don't want to do anything serious. I don't want to talk about Kabod Lubavitcher and the two witnesses and those kinds of things on Nightcap. That's not really what that's for. That's for having a riot this time. Have a couple of drinks. Eat some popcorn. That kind of stuff. Get a few laughs in. Get something interesting. I did do a couple of serious ones. One I did on the Shroud of Turin on a Nightcap, but it still kind of fit, what I was trying to accomplish there. If you want to see that again, you can go to across the top of my channel here, where it says videos, live, and come on over to the community and all that. You go to playlist, and you go down the playlist to Nightcap, my Nightcap episodes, and that one on the Shroud of Turin is right there. And there's a lot of other fun stuff there too. All right. Really, BP? Jesse says I just sold some popcorn, so maybe we'll do that. Jesse and I'll see if we can work that out, because I think I used to be a UFO aficionado. Matter of fact, I think I've told you that when I was 14, I was so much into it that my mom, who worked at Goddard Space Flight Center, had one of the astrophysicists come to dinner, and we went back to my bedroom where nothing bad happened, okay? Went back there so I could show him my UFO books and that stuff, and we sat down and had a talk, and he said, "They're real, Roy. They're real." Okay. So, yeah. Alrighty. Keep your eyes on the horizon, your ears to the ground. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. That doesn't mean you can't defend yourself. You can, just don't go looking for trouble. And know your enemy. Right? Keep your situational awareness on high. Things have been progressively getting worse. You know, I said, I've been saying for years that we arrive at this point, and we're still not at the final stage. Remove yourself from Babylon the best you can. You probably won't be, very few of us will be able to get out completely. And even then, if they find you, they're going to try to pull you back in or kill you. Like Randy Weaver, for instance. But just do the best you can, because somebody asked me the other day, Roy, you always tell us about the problems. What are the solutions? You never offer solutions. No, I do offer solutions. I tell you to prep, pray, stay away. You're not going to be able to fix what's going on in here. Their network of informants and lackeys and real traitors is too big. You're going to have to depend upon a small group of people that you can trust, and even then you're going to have to be careful. I've talked about, the FBI's little spy group. And they're everywhere. Prep, pray, stay out of the way. Like I say, draw out as best you can. Nothing else is going to work. On a grand scale, this thing's coming down. It's coming down. The end game is it's done. It's proven that what's on the label of the bottle is not what the contents are. And they've wrought evil throughout the whole world. They've killed at this point millions, maybe billions. In the future, going down the road with all that's happened the last 3 years, possibly many billions of people, of innocent people. Children. So the solution is you just got to try to get out. Pray that God helps you. We'll see you all next time. Thanks for putting up with me tonight. Hope you like the way I'm demonstrating and showing my plaques here. All right. I think it kind of says a lot. We'll see you later. Thanks.